Now we're here with Anthony Ward. He's the co-founder of the Armajaro and portfolio manager of the CC Plus Fund, one of the most influential funds in the global cacao market. And he's also a speaker at this year's St. Gallen Symposium. Mr. Ward, thank you very much for granting us some of your time. You're said to be the most powerful cacao trader in the world. How do you deal with this far-reaching responsibility?
Well, I think it's exaggerated. You know, the weather's the most powerful thing in cocoa. And I guess what we try to do is to try and pass some of the good stuff back. You know, we help farmers everywhere. We build a traceable, sustainable business. We work with rainforest, NGOs and people like that to try and get the message back through health programs, food programs, and water programs all over the world. So we kind of think that we are in helping, at least the developing world, in Africa in particular, is my favorite place to try and do those things.
Governments, especially in the West, have heavily been subsidizing food production and leading to overcapacities and even exports back into emerging markets. And now as commodity prices face an upward trend, why do Western policymakers complain about price adjustments at all?
Because they don't understand what they're doing. I mean, they're nuts. I mean, basically, for the last 50 years, the Western taxpayer subsidized the rest of the world with cheap food. And now the West is poor, and actually most of the other countries are rich. So China can certainly afford to pay, and South America can pay, and pretty much 90% of the world can afford to pay the real price for food. So I find it a idiotic policy. For European consumers, it doesn't make any difference. So the area where it's stressful is in some of the sub-Saharan Africa countries, and they probably should still be subsidized for social unrest reasons, and maybe North Africa. But the rest of the world should pay the right price for the goods.
Extraordinary events in Ivory Coast, the largest cacao producer in the world, can create lucrative opportunities for trading houses like yours. How can you positively contribute to stability and prosperity in the long term for those countries?
Well, I guess, at the end of the day, what we really want is we want a consistent supply of cocoa. And, for everybody, I mean, for the farmers in Ivory Coast and for the end users. And weather is always going to be a big factor, and we're quite happy just to have weather. We don't need to have political unrest. And, Ivory Coast has been absolutely terrible what's happened there. It's shocking. I mean, there's really been ethnic cleansing in Ivory Coast, much more probably than we all still know today. So I'm very hopeful that the West is very much behind President Ouattara, and he worked at the IMF or the World Bank, so he's well known on the international stage, and I think he's going to be a strong president, and the West will get behind. First of all, we need security, and then we need investment.
You're talking about weather. You're set to run your own weather station in your London office in order to notice any small changes in weather and then the influence on prices. How intent on details does a trader or a commodity trader have to be in order to be really powerful?
Okay, so, relating to weather, I mean, what we try to do is have an edge, just an edge. You know what? The world at the moment looks at the US weather systems on the internet because it's free. So what we want to do is to see what they're saying, and normally 95% of the time we see the same thing. But just occasionally we have a different view, and we have a very high confidence in some areas, which I'm not going to tell you where, of the world, where our data is more accurate than their data. And then we can put a trade on. So I wouldn't say it's manipulative, it's just an opportunity. And it's actually fascinating. I mean, world weather is such an interesting subject.
Yeah, because it's so unpredictable.
Exactly. Well, but it is predictable too. I mean, there are big trends. I think people haven't taken enough notice of it. And you need to have people with Masters of Science to basically write the programs and understand weather properly. And most people haven't invested in that. There aren't that many meteorologists in the world. So I think it's quite a good thing to do as a career.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Wall, for this conversation, and enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.